We check out the Michael 2026 official teaser starring Jafar Jackson. Jafar is, oh my God, he looks...
Jafar Jackson always carried a piece of Michael Jackson's spirit with him, growing up surrounded by the music, moves, and memories of his legendary uncle. Now, he's stepping into the spotlight in the upcoming 2026 biopic Michael, bringing to life the king of pop in a way only someone who truly knew him could. But what was it really like to embody the man behind the legend? Stay tuned, because Jafar is finally revealing the truth behind taking on this iconic role. Playing his uncle Michael Jackson. From the moment the casting announcement hit the headlines in January 2023, fans understood something extraordinary was happening. Other actors might have approached the role of Michael Jackson as a challenge, a mountain of mimicry to climb. But Jafar Jackson stepped into it with a kind of familiarity that no outsider could ever reproduce. He didn't audition as a stranger stepping into a legend. He walked in as family, and that changed everything. The world learned about the casting on a crisp January morning when reports spread that Michael's own nephew had been chosen to carry the story of the king of pop into a new generation of cinema. Social media erupted with excitement, curiosity, and even skepticism. But one truth became instantly clear. No one, absolutely no one, had better access to the real Michael than Jafar himself. Not the gloved icon the world watched on stage. Not the superstar with choreography so precise it rewrote pop history. But Michael, the uncle, the family man, the mentor, the quiet storyteller at holiday gatherings. That was the man Jafar grew up knowing. Right after the announcement, Jafar Jackson broke his silence on Instagram with a message that simply read, "I'm humbled and honored." There was no theatrics, no ego, just sincerity. The way a family member speaks when entrusted with a legacy that transcends fame. As Jermaine Jackson's son, Jafar didn't need to study Michael's life from the outside. He had lived it. From conversations after family dinners to laughter-filled summers at Neverland, these weren't stories to research. They were memories etched into his life. Every nuance, every lesson, and every shared moment shaped his understanding, giving him unmatched authenticity for the role. The emotional weight of portraying his uncle wasn't something Jafar could ever dismiss. He grew up in rooms where Michael's music played not as a global anthem, but as a family soundtrack. He remembers running around Neverland, where childhood felt limitless, and where Michael's presence wasn't filtered through cameras or headlines, but through real interactions, listening, guiding, teasing, joking. Those memories gave Jafar something no director could script and no acting coach could teach: emotional truth. When he accepted the role, he wasn't just agreeing to imitate Michael's voice or replicate iconic dance steps. He was stepping into a living memory, carrying the responsibility of honoring not the myth, but the man. That responsibility is heavier than any spotlight. The audience may come to the biopic expecting perfect performances, flawless choreography, or polished portrayals. But for Jafar, the pressure comes from a deeper place, doing justice to someone he loved. And that is what sets this casting apart. Other actors might compete to capture a legend. Jafar carries the privilege and the burden of portraying someone who shaped his life. He is not simply stepping into a role. He is stepping into a legacy, one built on family ties, personal memories, and a devotion that stretches far beyond Hollywood expectations. But how would the world react once those private memories became public art? Don't blink. Trailer for the new biopic. When the trailer finally arrived, the internet did exactly what everyone expected. It paused, analyzed, dissected, and replayed every frame. The release didn't just spark excitement, it ignited conversations, debates, and a flood of reactions across social platforms. Every second of footage was treated like a clue, a hint of how deeply the film intends to dive into Michael Jackson's world. And as fans scrolled, paused, and zoomed in on scenes, one realization kept surfacing. This wasn't merely a tribute. This was shaping up to be a full biopic, one built with precision, emotional gravity, and an almost forensic level of detail. The visual craftsmanship became immediately obvious. Director Antoine Fuqua, known for his dramatic intensity and cinematic polish, infused each scene with atmosphere and weight. His fingerprints were everywhere: the sweeping wide shots, the intimate close-ups, and the choreography sequences that felt like they were unfolding right in front of the viewer. Everything about the trailer seemed calculated to evoke Michael's magnetism without slipping into imitation or parody. It wasn't about copying, it was about capturing essence. Then came the writing. The screenplay was shaped by John Logan, a storyteller capable of weaving emotional nuance into large-scale narratives. His work has always struck a balance between character depth and spectacle, and the trailer reflected that exact blend. Even without hearing every line of dialogue, the pacing, tone, and structure hinted at a script designed to reveal not just Michael's global influence, but the personal battles behind the spotlight. Logan's narrative guidance gave the biopic a sense of trajectory. This wasn't going to be a stitched-together montage of famous moments. It was a journey. Of course, none of this would be possible without powerhouse producer Graham King, whose experience with biographical drama is unmatched. His fingerprints have guided some of the most successful real-life cinematic portrayals, and his involvement added both credibility and expectation. With Lionsgate backing the film, the production felt big, bold, and undeniably deliberate. Nothing was rushed, nothing was careless. Everything came together for impact. The film was set for release in April 2026, building anticipation worldwide. But the cast is what truly pushed the trailer into the spotlight. Alongside Jafar Jackson's hauntingly authentic portrayal of his uncle, viewers caught glimpses of Coleman Domingo and Nia Long as Joe and Catherine Jackson, Loren Tate as Barry Gordy, and Miles Teller as John Branca, the attorney who became Michael's manager after he parted ways with his father. Their presence lent the story dramatic force and emotional depth, hinting that the film would explore not just Michael's fame, but the relationships, tensions, and defining moments that shaped the man behind the legend. And then there was the moment that electrified fans: the recreation of the thriller choreography. In just a few seconds, the trailer transported viewers back to one of the most iconic music visuals in history. The lighting, the movement, the energy, it all echoed the original without becoming an imitation. Those few moments served as a promise. The film would honor the artistry while allowing Jafar to bring something personal, something human, something lived in. That's what the trailer ultimately achieved. It reframed Jafar not as a performer copying Michael's moves, but as someone embodying Michael's presence. A nephew stepping into a role shaped by bloodline and memory. A young artist balancing homage and individuality. For fans, this was the reassurance they needed. Jafar wasn't simply featured in the story, he was becoming part of it.
Michael Jackson's nephew is starring as his uncle in the upcoming biopic on the legend's life. Jafar Jackson, who's the son of Jermaine Jackson, does a complete transformation for the role of Michael.
The trailer didn't just present a film, it introduced a legacy retold. And the conversation it sparked made one thing very clear. When April 2026 arrives, expectations will be sky high. But what deeper story lay behind that flawless performance? And how much of it was written long before the cameras rolled? Stay tuned. Early life, family background, career beginnings, and Jackson cousins. As the trailer continued to circulate and conversations about Jafar's portrayal grew louder, it naturally pushed audiences to look beyond the screen, back into his world, his roots, and the family story that shaped him long before Hollywood spotlighted his name. Understanding Jafar means stepping into a lineage that has always existed under scrutiny, rhythm, and history. The Jackson name isn't just a surname, it's a legacy layered with triumphs, tragedies, and constant reinvention. Jafar entered that legacy at birth, though even his birth month comes with conflicting details. Jafar was born in July 1996 into the Jackson family. Even in small details like his birthday, Jafar inherited a level of mystery that has long orbited the family. What isn't disputed is his heritage. Jafar is the son of Jermaine Jackson, a key member of the Jackson 5. That makes Jafar not just Michael's nephew, but a direct link in the musical bloodline that helped reshape the sound of American pop culture. Growing up within that tree meant music wasn't something introduced, it was lived. It was heard in rehearsals, echoing down hallways, shaping routines and guiding futures. Family was never separated from artistry. Jafar's childhood included time at Neverland, where gatherings turned into sprawling celebrations filled with cousins, laughter, and stories. Unlike fans who know Neverland from documentaries and photographs, Jafar knew it as a real place. A childhood playground where Michael wasn't a star first, but an uncle who told stories, encouraged imagination, and made an ordinary weekend feel enchanted. This closeness extended to Michael's children, Paris, Prince, and Biggie. Growing up, Jafar interacted with them in ways only family could. They weren't extensions of a legacy. They were cousins who shared holidays, birthdays, and moments that never reached the public. When they reunited, it wasn't for cameras, it was for connection. They built bonds through normal family experiences, even if normal for them included roaming the grounds of one of the most iconic estates in the world. As Jafar matured, the influence of his upbringing started to manifest publicly. In 2019, he released his debut single, Got Me Singing.
The day when I was working on Got Me Singing, we were in the studio in Van Nuys, and Hardy, the producer, played these drums for me. I really loved the rhythm and the feel it gave me.
A vibrant, catchy introduction that showcased his voice, energy, and direction as a musician. The song marked his official entry into the industry, separate from his family name, yet undeniably shaped by it. He also made earlier appearances in family-linked projects, such as The Jacksons' Next Generation, giving audiences glimpses of who he was becoming. Still, Jafar never chased fame recklessly. He moved with intention. His choices reflected someone shaped by a family that knew both the rewards and the cost of celebrity. He didn't push himself forward as a Michael replica or attempt to fill the impossible shoes of his uncle. Instead, he focused on carving his own path, one that acknowledged the legacy without being confined by it. His upbringing, surrounded by artists, storytellers, and performers, created an environment where expression felt natural. But the nuances of his childhood, the memories shared with cousins, the unfiltered moments at Neverland, the wisdom passed down from elder family members, gave him something far more valuable: perspective. And when the opportunity came to portray Michael, that perspective became the foundation. His early life wasn't just preparation for a career, it was preparation for responsibility. He grew up observing what fame could give and what it could take away. He knew firsthand the emotional beats behind the spotlight, the stories behind the songs, and the life behind the legend. And all of that, every memory, every gathering, every lesson, now feeds into the role he is about to bring to the world. But how did Jafar prepare to embody his uncle, whose life was larger than legend itself, and carry that weight with truth? Keep watching to find out. Mental health, personal growth, and the cost of fame. As Jafar stepped deeper into the responsibility of portraying his uncle, another layer of reality settled over him. The emotional weight of stepping into the shadow of a figure whose life had been both celebrated and scrutinized. Fame within the Jackson family is never just a spotlight. It is a legacy shaped by global adoration, intense pressure, and the constant demand to be extraordinary. And Jafar's journey into the role required far more than physical training or performance accuracy. It required emotional grounding. The family had lived through monumental highs, but they had also weathered storms under relentless public judgment. For Jafar, preparing mentally for the role meant revisiting not just Michael the icon, but Michael the uncle he remembered before the world's noise drowned the softer parts of his story. He approached the preparation with guidance from relatives who understood the complexities of fame, elders who had witnessed firsthand what it meant to be adored, criticized, and misunderstood, sometimes all in the same breath. The family's experience with fame took a darker turn on June 25, 2009, the day the world lost Michael Jackson. That day didn't just mark the end of an era, it reshaped the emotional lives of everyone who loved him. For his children, Paris, Prince, and Biggie, it introduced a profound grief layered with public curiosity. Their private pain became global conversation, Their healing became headline fodder. Their every step, from childhood to adolescence, was observed, analyzed, and judged by millions. These pressures inevitably influenced Jafar's perspective. He watched his cousins navigate a world that expected them to represent a legend while also finding their own identities. Paris, for example, openly discussed the emotional struggles of growing up in the Jackson family spotlight, trying to balance personal growth with the weight of expectations. Prince learned early how to carry himself with resilience in the face of constant media attention. Biggie, the youngest, often battled shyness and sought refuge in quieter paths away from the spotlight. Their experiences became a mirror for Jafar, showing him that fame can be dazzling, but it can also be isolating. Because of those lessons, Jafar approached the role with a sense of protection, not just toward Michael's legacy, but toward himself. He knew he needed mental preparation as much as physical. He surrounded himself with mentors, family members, and grounding influences. He carved out emotional space to separate the performance from his identity. He reminded himself of the real Michael, the uncle who played, laughed, guided, and cared, not just the one the world endlessly debated. In many ways, this internal work became Jafar's shield. It prevented him from being swallowed by the magnitude of what he was taking on. It allowed him to grow personally while preparing professionally. And most importantly, it gave him the balance needed to carry both the beauty and the burden of fame, something only someone raised within the Jackson story could truly understand. The truth about playing his uncle Michael Jackson. Stepping into the role of Michael Jackson meant more than copying a voice or mastering steps. It meant carrying a story that lived in Jafar long before cameras began to roll. What fans suspected, and what Jafar eventually confirmed, is that he wasn't approaching the role as an impersonator. He was approaching it as someone with lived memories, someone who knew the man behind the myth. His own words, describing himself as humbled and honored, reveal the emotional sincerity with which he embraced this responsibility. Jafar's authenticity stems from personal experience, not just talent. Family stories, Neverland memories, and private moments gave him insight others can't access. Unlike actors who study footage, he lived Michael's nuances firsthand, absorbing lessons, laughter, and guidance that shaped both his performance and understanding of his uncle. But authenticity alone wasn't enough. There were layers of responsibility built into the production itself. The Jackson estate, including figures like John Branca and John McClane, oversaw and supported the project, ensuring that Michael's image, historical accuracy, and legacy were treated with care. Moreover, Catherine's involvement and blessing added an emotional legitimacy that no production note or script could provide. With the estate fully backing the film, Jafar's performance carried both approval and expectation. His preparation extended beyond emotional memory. He undertook choreography training to capture iconic sequences, including recreations of the precision and fluidity that made Michael unforgettable. Vocal coaching became a central part of his transformation, ensuring he could echo the tone and rhythm of Michael's speaking presence while maintaining his own integrity. The goal wasn't to sound identical, but to honor the cadence and spirit. One of the most delicate challenges was navigating the controversial chapters of Michael's life. The legal cases, the intense media scrutiny, and the polarized public perception. Jafar approached these moments with balance. His role wasn't to rewrite history, nor to sensationalize it. Instead, he committed to portraying Michael with depth, acknowledging complexity without losing compassion. In the end, this is what Jafar truly confirmed: that the role is not performance alone. It is a tribute, a responsibility, and a personal mission. And because of the access he had to memories, to family guidance, and to the estate's support, he was uniquely positioned to tell the story with truth and heart. But how exactly did Jafar translate all that preparation, from dance to voice to memory, into a performance that feels undeniably real? Keep watching to find out. What this role means for Jafar, the family, and the fans. As anticipation for the film grows, the deeper meaning behind Jafar's involvement becomes clearer. This isn't just a performance, it's a moment of confirmation. The acknowledgement that Jafar Jackson truly was the right person to step into Michael's world. What everyone suspected but hoped to see affirmed has now been made undeniable. He isn't simply playing Michael. He's carrying forward a legacy only someone within the family could fully understand.
Jackson's real-life nephew, son of Jermaine. The nephew's name is Jafar Jackson, and he's playing his late uncle, set to hit theaters on April 21st, so it's not...
For Jafar personally, the role represents a powerful shift in his career. Until now, he has often been identified by his lineage, the nephew of Michael Jackson, the son of Jermaine, part of the most famous musical dynasty in modern history. But this film has the potential to propel him beyond the identity of relative. It allows him to show depth, range, and emotional resonance on a global stage. He now stands on the edge of stepping into his own spotlight, not because of his surname, but because of the work he delivers. The family's support strengthens this transformation. Catherine's blessing, along with the approval of the Jackson estate, confirms that Jafar is not only capable but trusted. Family voices, from elders to cousins, have echoed the same sentiment. He understands Michael from the inside. His memories, his childhood experiences, and his quiet reflections give him an authenticity that critics and audiences cannot dismiss. What the world suspected is now confirmed. This is a portrayal rooted in truth, not imitation. For fans, the film promises a reframing of Michael's legacy. While controversies and legal battles have long clouded parts of his public story, the biopic, under the direction of Antoine Fuqua with a screenplay by John Logan and produced by Graham King with Lionsgate powering the production, aims to return focus to the artistry, the humanity, and the real person behind the headlines. The creative team's involvement signals seriousness, depth, and cinematic intention. As the release window approaches, with April 2026 highlighted in planning notes, audiences know what to watch for. The choreography recreations that echo Michael's brilliance. The emotional scenes were shaped by Jafar's first-hand memories. The estate's careful oversight ensures accuracy. And above all, Jafar's performance, the very heart of the project, which carries the potential to reshape how new generations understand Michael Jackson. The truth has been confirmed not through words alone, but through Jafar's dedication. His involvement is more than casting. It is connection, lineage, and love. And that is what makes this film matter. So, what makes Jafar Jackson more than just a nephew playing Michael? Truly the one to carry his legacy. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.